Yeah.
Oh, we're on the live.
Yeah, Instagram
Hot.
Live.
Amazing. I thought you meant like on the camera.
Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Christina Rahm, and this is Under the Red Chandelier, and I am here with Jade Shenker, and we're so excited to have her here today. We've already been laughing. We've already been talking. She was telling me a little bit about herself, and now you guys, you probably have tuned in to some of the stuff she's done. She's been on television. She's worked with very famous people as well as influential individuals, but her spirit and her personality came out right away when she walked in the room. So we're so thankful to have you here.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. This is so amazing. I think whenever I stepped in, just the energy of this room, the energy with you is so beautiful. So I feel very, very blessed and happy to be here.
Thank you. Well, I'm excited. I'm also excited you're going to send me the pop-up shows for for today so I can go later.
Yeah.
Because we're here at Fashion Week.
You might as well. I mean, it is one of like the craziest times in New York City.
It is.
Just, I mean, walking outside, I'm sure photographers are outside, the energy, the people, the fashion.
Yes.
And like, I love what you're wearing too, like the textures and everything.
We did a fashion show yesterday. Yes. It was our team worked so hard. We have a fashion line that protects against nuclear waste and 5G and pollution. And we team with other designers. So I've gotten to meet amazing people through that, like the CEO of Chanel, different groups from Nicole Paloma to Burberry to Lafayette. We've gotten to do different things with them, but now our next goal for the next year is to really put our fabric into play and do some pop-ups in New York and more fashion. So I'm so excited to be here because the energy in New York is really different than anywhere else in the world. I tell people constantly, Dubai and New York for food, probably two of my favorites, but I like New York more. And the energy, you bring the energy. So you say you're from here, but you lived in Miami. So tell us about you and why you're in New York and what you do. I know that our audience, like I said, they've seen you, I'm sure, on everywhere, on everything. But we want to hear about you personally.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, well, number one, I mean, sometimes people still call me. And like, I never assume somebody knows me from the show. I never know. You know, my clients, I would say like most of my clients haven't watched a show. They don't know me from Netflix. So it's this new audience, which is so beautiful. But I'm a born New Yorker. My family were developers here in the city. Like I want to say like 3-4 generations of like pure New Yorkers. And I grew up in a real estate family. So you know, they were all males, and I was kind of like the first only child woman who was learning about real estate at a really young age. So my father had me when he was like in his like mid-50s, for example. So I think now that I'm older, I kind of see why he started teaching me about stuff, especially when you're planning, like, you know, estate planning and you know, you have a business that you worked so hard for, and, you know, you're like, okay, well, I'm expecting a son and you have a daughter. You're like, okay, well, I have to teach her stuff.
That's great.
So yeah, I started learning real estate at a really young age, and kind of the approach of, you know, how can I get something done? Whether I have to fly and schmooze someone in Texas to figure something out, or if I need to like call every single day and like just hound someone in order to get an answer. So kind of learn like that hustle at an early age. And then
that's a gift, though, you know that.
Oh,
to be able to navigate a situation, we were just talking about this, to go in and because you have to pivot or you have to change your direction because you never know, because every person's so different. Do you know what I mean? And so like in our company, you go in, we always think of what we want, but you have to think of what they want, which I know you've had to do because there's no other way, because they're trying to like provide all kinds of things, you know, for their life, right? This is a decision to buy real estate or to buy an investment or whatever they're doing. You have to really tune into their personality. So you must be really good at that.
Oh, I love it. Well, it's also like someone's strategy, right?
Yeah.
I think like whenever somebody's like, oh, Jade, you know, what do you recommend? And I always ask, I'm like, you know, there's so many different facets to making any sort of investment decision, right? You know, how many years you want to be in it, how risky you want to be. And I think that that's the part of real estate that I love. It's like, okay, you know, how do we figure out, you know, your 5-year strategy, and, you know, how do we restructure a building? Because, you know, if you didn't have let's say the plants and all these amazing textures in these 4 walls, what would it be, and how do we transform it to tell a story and to show the potential and the design and essentially make it a good investment. So that's like what I really fell in love with. And I moved to Miami after 9/11.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was
Was that hard?
You know, I was really young, and I think like being involved in like buildings, it was just a lot of like energy, and the air quality over here was really bad, and like my family is like very like, you know, into energy and, you know, healthy things. So they were like, all right, we got to get out of here. And we went to Miami, and that's, you know, where I was raised. And that's completely different culture, you know.
Yeah.
New York is like hustle, bustle. Miami is more, I would say, you know, you get a lot of street smarts in Miami.
Yeah.
And it was really cool kind of like integrating both. But then I moved back here in 2014. I fell in love.
Were you happy to move back?
I always knew I was going to come back here.
You did?
Yeah. I think whenever my freshman year of high school, I'd written down on a piece of paper, I was like, I want to be a top businesswoman in New York City.
I love that. Okay, I want to just tell the audience, so I say this constantly, what you put out there in the universe is what the universe hears, the energy, right? So when you write that down, and you know that's part of achieving a goal, you have to know what you want.
Yeah.
And so you knew.
Yeah, that's sometimes the hardest part.
Yeah.
You know, like my ex, who, you know, I'm no longer with.
Yes.
I
read about this, just so you know, I am prepared. I've gone through a similar situation as you, so I understand.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So, I'm sorry for you too.
Yeah. Well, now I'm celebrating, so.
Yeah, now well, listen, I have a really great life. I do too. It's like, people are always like, we're sorry. And I'm like, no, it's good. Like, everything's great. Yeah. But you basically knew you wanted to live here. You knew what you wanted to do, and but you went through a lot of changes. I was reading how you did, and you overcame, you know, controversy and tragedy, really, because I don't know if people understand this, but it's a deep hurt, a deep pain when you go through any kind of major relationship change, especially if there was trauma during the relationship.
Yeah, that was a tough year.
Yeah.
There's so much that wasn't captured on the show. You know, you have 8 episodes.
Yeah.
But earlier that year, or like even like I want to say like probably a year and a half before we started filming, my father was diagnosed with dementia too. Yeah. And then, you know, some things with his health, and then, you know, the stuff with my ex finding about the infidelity. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, what, why? And I have, on my notes app, I put reminders, and I'm like, okay, this is happening. And I always put reminders for 30 days to check in. And I have like a list of anytime I feel like low vibrational. Yeah. And it kind of like, it's like, okay, trust the universe. And I remember that's like, I think like number 2 on that list. And I was reading it, and I was like, how do I trust the universe in this moment? Yeah. Like, and I remember I was like, okay, Jade, take a step back. 2 months later, got the text from Ryan, we're greenlit for Netflix. And I was like,
wow.
Okay.
After after all these bad things happened. Yeah.
And I was great. I was like, this is like my chance. I was like, if I'm going to go through something like this, I was like, let me utilize this and try to like tell my story, and hopefully I can help people. But then I was like, wait, that means I need to get through this. So I was like, I don't know if I could actually do that. So I kind of had to like, almost like for me, I think like my purpose has always been to like inspire and like help people. So I was like, okay, I have to get through this because now I'm on a Netflix show telling this story. So I have no choice but to succeed.
Yeah. That was your like, the universe gave you an opportunity, and I think we all get those opportunities, and you either decide to move forward with it or to ignore the opportunity. And it's kind of been that way in my life. It's always at the hardest moments that there's a breakthrough. And now I'm older than you, so I can feel it. Like when I have this thing where energetically I feel when there's a change or a pivot, and then I start saying things out loud to document it, because I know if I can say it out loud, it's interesting. I don't break promises, so I won't break a promise to myself. But I think people need to understand that what you put out is an energetic promise, right? And we are energy, and so every word, every action promotes something and causes something to change. And you took that opportunity, and you made your life where it is, and a lot of people don't. So that's kudos to you, honestly.
Yeah,
and you can feel your energy.
And you too.
Thank you.
It's really inspiring, like, to me, to see someone who's so wonderful, like so out there, and also like I think like seeing people who like make initiatives to make the world a better place, even like with your clothing line and the fashion stuff, like that's amazing. Like, and that's what inspires me. You know, I look at that and I'm like, okay, well, who are the women that I can look at and be like, wow, I love what she's doing.
I need to bring you into our circle. We actually do a lot of things with women. We just did a CEO event in Nashville. We're doing one in the Vatican, and I'll send you the information. I wasn't raised Catholic. I'm not, but they're bringing in all different religions, and they're doing this peace conference. So I participate in a lot of that with women. And I have to say this, so I'm a scientist, so I think I had cancer. I had a lot of things that happened to me, and I was like you. I had to choose to either get out of bed, the divorce was the same way, or just keep going, right? And then go to the next level. And what I've learned is after you go through a trauma or something bad, it's really hard. So to pretend like it doesn't hurt or that it's not hard and that everything's easy is a lie, right?
Yeah.
So I admit, like, this is hard. I have to get through it. But then I've noticed that through each major event, something positive comes out of it because you're evolving, right? And you're becoming stronger. It's kind of like when you get a virus. If you get rid of that virus, your system upgrades your immune system. So I've had so many people say to me, well, that's great what you're doing as a scientist, but I have to say this, and I hope the audience hears this. Every single person has the opportunity to make just as much of an impact, whether you're a scientist or a real estate agent or you're on television. You just have to take that opportunity and you have to use it the right way. And then I think we have to be humble but strong, confident, but also learning. You know what I mean? And I feel that in you. So that's a major compliment. Not that you need one from me, but it's great to see that in a person that's achieved what you've achieved. That's true. It's very refreshing to me.
Thank you. That like gave me goosebumps. Thank you. I'm
around a lot of people, and I feel your energy, and it's great. Because when you achieve things, there shouldn't be really an arrogance about it. There should be a confidence, because that means you have a role, and that means you have to lead and serve the right way. So you're doing that through your television, through the people you meet. So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What do you do when you run into someone that's negative? You live in New York. You lived in Miami, so I'm pretty familiar with both.
Yeah.
We actually do a lot in the Hamptons. We do a lot here, and a lot all over. But you do run into negativity, right? So how do you handle that?
I think it really depends. There's like kind of like two different negative vibe merchants that I consider. I would say one is like the people that have no say in your life. Their opinions kind of like, you're like, well, like you're not in, my circle, anything like that. And for me, I take the approach of two things. Either it hurts me, which means that is there something part of it that I feel like is true, right? I try to do a lot of introspection.
Yeah.
And say, okay, like, does this hurt me? Why does it hurt me? And then on the second hand, I think...
so that's one version. So basically, they're not in your circle, right?
Yeah, they're not in my circle.
But I agree with you. I'm like you. When I hear it, I do try to think, wait a minute, this happened to me yesterday, actually. I was like, what did I do wrong that I can change? And then I don't really let it go until I've worked through it in my mind and how I can be a better person.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about my life. It's about if I hurt someone or impact them, because I can unintentionally hurt someone through the position we have in the company or who I am. So I have to not ignore it. But on the flip side, I can't let it ruin my life. Because you know how when you get these opinions, you're on Netflix, so people are commenting they like your hair, or they don't like what you're doing, or you had an attitude. So you have to listen, but you can't let it run your life.
No. I mean, I listen, but then I'm like, well, like, one of the most interesting things, and I think being any woman in business, I think I've gotten letters with people who like kind of like understand this perspective as well. It's like, hearing opinions from other people, they don't know your goal.
No.
So, for them, they think, maybe, I or someone else is, we should be fitting in a box or we should be doing things a certain way. I've gotten so much negativity from like colleagues, from other women, from other men, and Instagram, whatever. And for me, like sometimes I just laugh and I just I lead with love, and then I think like sometimes it does get to me, but at the same time, like I try to have moments where I'm silent and I like meditate and I'm like, okay, well, like what is my purpose? And are these things that I'm doing that, maybe people don't agree with me, does it serve the purpose that I feel like I'm pushing towards? Because it's
your purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, you're one person. You're here for your mission.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I always just think about that. And I'm like, well, my goal is like, up here, right?
Yeah, they may not understand that.
Yeah, and that's like the beautiful thing where I'm like, well, like I kind of have to be honest with myself. And times where I haven't been honest with myself, I love fashion, right?
Yeah.
I love fashion. It's one of those things that makes me so happy, and
I love it too because it just makes you feel different. Like and people are always like, "What does a scientist have to do with fashion?" And I'm like, "Okay, I am a woman. I do love fashion.
Yeah.
Being a scientist never took that away, and that's why I really put emphasis in the science area of that. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It really is, and it can make someone feel so much happier and better. So you're implementing that into your series as well. I looked at different snippets. So you're trying to make sure that you're showing that throughout the show as well.
Yeah, or just like a feminine approach.
Like what you're wearing.
Too.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. You too. I was like, wow. I was like, I love this. It's a way to speak.
It is to speak your personality. Mm-hmm. So you told me you have not to change the subject from fashion, but you have. This is the people that aren't in your circle. Mm-hmm. What about the people that criticize you in your circle?
Okay, so that's like where it hurts sometimes.
Yeah.
But I've found myself in different areas of my life where I can recognize sometimes where the person's coming from. Yeah. Right? Is it a place of they want the best for me, or is it another place? And I've learned to kind of look at that and be like, okay, well, I can't control what someone says to me. I can control how it affects me. So, I try not to listen to too much of it.
Yeah.
I'm very sensitive.
Yeah.
I'm a very sensitive person. You probably saw it on the show. And
yeah. But that's good.
Thank you.
That means you care.
A little bit too much sometimes.
No, I think honestly, I'm very sensitive. I was so mad at myself yesterday. I cried on stage, which I've done a couple of times. And I'm not a cry. Like I'm one of these women that my dad would say, "Don't cry." So, and I have a great father, so he wasn't like mean or anything. I was really tough. I was kind of like you. I was the second child, but he didn't have a son. So I went everywhere with my father, and I was really the one raised around him. My mom had my sister. Really? And of course I love both my parents, but I'm very sensitive inside. Mm-hmm. I learned not to show it. So when I break down, it's usually a buildup over time because but I learned that that's just me, and God made me this way, so this is how I am.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. I think it is beautiful to be sensitive, especially, but I'll say this, when you achieve things in life, people get jealous. People that don't know you say things, and then the people that know you, they see a change, and they think, well, maybe this person's going to become a different individual. And I can honestly say I'm the same person I was when I was going through tragedy and didn't have anything. Not that there's ever been a period in my life where I didn't have anything financially, but I've gone through a lot. And I think being sensitive is a little bit harder when you go through pain, right? Or when you become successful in the world in the eyes of the world. So you have to learn to protect your soul and your spirit, because the more you achieve, because you're young and you've achieved a lot, so the more that happens, the more attention you will get, which is wonderful. But then good and bad, light and dark surrounds that.
Oh my God, the fact that you just said that, I was just talking about that with someone where I was like, the small things like don't bother me anymore, because it's like exactly what you said. It's like the more you're out there with the positive stuff, the impact that you have on the positive stuff, you're still gonna have impact on people, and there will be negative, the yin and yang, exactly what you said. So I'm learning that, and look, I've never been on TV before, and I'm so grateful. Sometimes I don't even realize it. I'm like, oh my gosh, wow, like, you know, like I'm at a sample sale, and you know, I'm in the changing room, and people are like, hey, and I'm like, well, I'm like not.
You're changing.
I'm like, okay.
Or you're in the bathroom and they say, please sign this under this.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, okay, like that's so cool.
That's
so,
great though. That means you have the opportunity to impact those people.
Yeah.
But still, it's pressure. Because sometimes you probably just want to be alone, and maybe not everyone knows you.
Well, I love it. Like I love understanding people. So if people come up to me, it gives me an opportunity to like learn about them. Like, what are they doing? Even like connecting with you, I think you're brilliant. So it's like, you know, I think it's wonderful. You know, exposure gives me the opportunity to connect with brilliant people, and I learn. Like I love learning, and you know, figuring out, okay, like how else can I be a positive impact to this world? Yeah. Which is essentially, I think, what everyone can do.
You know, we launched our brand, the Root Brands, which is our supplement line. I did patents for reversing aging and regenerating the skin, hair, and nails, but really the whole approach is detoxing basically the trash out of your body, right?
Yeah.
And supplementing to make it more beautiful, because the truth is inside we have toxins and we have trash. And so we can buy a million outfits and a million things, but we have to take care of our bodies, which is why I loved hearing how your family recognized the air was bad here. They moved you to Miami, because you do have to make these transitional changes because your body and your health is so important. And I recognize that you were raised, the different things I've seen about you and your family, that you were raised around that. They implemented that, and that's so important because a lot of people don't have that. Yeah. But I think touching people to make those changes is so significant. I want to make sure we send you some of our clothing so you can have it. We have some really cool designer pieces because we work with great designers, and then we implement the process to protect the skin.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I was here on 9/11, by the way. Is that unbelievable? I flew in. I was living in Seattle. I know. I still do. My 2 kids, I have 4 kids, but I had 2 at the time, and left them to fly here. And my brother-in-law actually flew here at the same time. So my brother-in-law and I flew in the same day, and we were here, both of us working for different pharmaceutical companies, and stranded here. You know how it was. It was a mess. Unless you were in New York, I don't think people really felt it. And in our hotel, they moved all of us into different rooms so they could take people from the towers and put them in the hotel because they didn't have anywhere to stay. But you know, you could either focus on the tragedy of that for your whole life, or know that you're lucky to be alive. Like for me, that was a major moment. And I've been in war countries, I've been kidnapped, I've gone through different things. New York was a traumatic experience for me. I think it was my first time I ever had an anxiety attack. And I didn't know what it was at the time, but I was like, what is happening? And then I'm sure you remember this, everything was cut off. Your cell phone stopped working, you're looking at the television, but it was like the world was going dark, and then it was one tragedy after another. So we're both lucky that neither one of us got hurt in that environment. And that means we have a purpose, right? But you could sit and live in fear and be paralyzed by that, or move on. And I just want to say thank you for being on this show. And thank you for being an example for women and men of positivity and change and evolving through tragedy. Because you don't want to give up in life when those things happen. And you know every person has a choice. So I just want to encourage you. I hope you tell your story to everyone. Hopefully they'll hear it from us as well. We'll have you back on the show if you are interested, because they need to hear about the positive things that you're doing. It's really great. And more than even your show is amazing, and what you're doing is amazing, your contacts and who you're touching, but your energy and how you're implementing and that into our world is so important.
Thank you. I appreciate that, especially like, again, to what you said before, it's like every like hardship that you go through, every breakdown, it's like there's a breakthrough, and there's a reason you're going through it. And like time and time again, like the worst moments in my life where I was like, I can't do this, on the other end has been the most amazing things on the other side. And the person that I become, I'm like, wow, like when I was 5 and I wanted to be this amazing, iconic businesswoman.
Look at you.
Thank you.
I mean, you've achieved more than you wrote down on that piece of paper. You didn't say, I want to be on Netflix, or I wanted to be a television star. So congratulations.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you for having me. And there's so much that I am so excited to learn from you, too.
I hope we're a good example as a company. I'm sure you know this. It's like your series. It's not just me. Mm-hmm. I'm one piece of what we do. But we do have some really great things we're helping people with. We'll make sure that you have them. I want to get your number and make sure I'm staying in touch with you, and make sure I send you some of our couture line so you can have it and wear it.
Anytime. And also, I need to send you New York Fashion Week stuff.
Please send me all the pop-ups so I can go to them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, they would love that. Yeah. And especially what you're doing. I think it's so amazing, and you're touching women like me. So
I'm touching them because of our amazing people that you've already met. That you met Stephanie and Joy and Ted and Patrick. We have such a great team. Lindsay. I mean, they're a great team. My husband's amazing. We really are good people. People walk into our office in Nashville, or when we travel, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, your team has such great energy." I'm like, "We're like a family." So sometimes we argue, and then we always make up.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's good whenever you argue.
It is good.
You need a little banter, and you need someone to challenge you a bit.
I say that constantly. Another told me to wrap up. I say this constantly. If you really say you're not disagreeing in a friendship or a relationship, or you don't have a different opinion, then you're not telling the truth.
Yeah.
Because my first doctorate degree was psychology.
Yeah.
And so I just understand that we all have differences, and we're here to learn from each other. So when I feel like someone's so difficult for me to get along with, I try even harder, because I think I'm supposed to learn a lesson here. How do I learn this? This is on me. How do I fix this? Yeah. But then I have to give myself grace to be me and have fun and be happy. And I just want to wish you all the best. I really enjoyed meeting you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and for touching me. Thank you.
Thank you.